It begins not with OxyContin, but with a man named Arthur Sackler, a psychiatrist who became a marketing visionary. In 1952, Arthur and his brothers bought a small pharmaceutical company called Purdue Pharma, based in Stamford, Connecticut. Arthur didn't just sell medicine, he sold the idea of medicine. He pioneered marketing methods that blurred the line between ethics and profit, lavish promotions, sponsored journals, and paid doctor endorsements. These tactics became the template for how future drugs would be sold. Years later, that same mindset would shape the rise of OxyContin, a pill falsely promoted as less addictive. The FDA's approval came with wording later proven dangerously misleading. Soon after signing off, the reviewing doctor, Curtis Wright, left the agency for a senior job at Purdue. The pattern of profit before integrity was set. When Arthur died in 1987, his shares were sold to his brothers, but the corporate DNA and the moral compromise that came with it was already in place. 1996, Purdue Pharma, now run by Arthur's brothers' descendants, including Richard Sackler, launched OxyContin. Marketed as a less addictive painkiller, the claim was false. When crushed, each pill released a full, potent dose of oxycodone, a highly addictive opioid. The biggest lie was its duration. Advertised as 12-hour relief, many patients found the effect faded after 8. Rather than fix the flaw, Purdue used it. They encouraged doctors to prescribe stronger doses instead, locking patients into cycles of withdrawal and dependency. It wasn't medical innovation, it was business strategy. Sales representatives were pushed to sell harder. Doctors were offered bonuses. Pain societies were funded to spread the myth that addiction was rare. Internally, Richard Sackler urged staff to hammer on the abusers, deflecting blame onto the suffering. Prescriptions soared, addiction spread, and entire communities began to crumble. By 2007, Purdue's top executives pleaded guilty to criminal misbranding and paid over $600 million in fines. But not one member of the Sackler family went to prison, and the drug remained on the market. As lawsuits grew, the Sacklers acted swiftly, not to make amends, but to protect their fortune. Between 2008 and 2017, they quietly withdrew $10.7 billion from Purdue, moving the money through trusts and offshore accounts in Switzerland and Bermuda. While U.S. oversight tightened, their overseas network, Pharma, carried on the mission, selling opioids in more than 120 countries. The same sales scripts, the same deceptive claims, just new markets to exploit. Across Europe, Asia, and Latin America, Pharma repeated the Purdue playbook, maximizing profit from pain. Meanwhile, in the U.S., families were burying loved ones. Protest movements rose, led by artists and activists demanding accountability. The Sackler name, once associated with culture and philanthropy, became synonymous with greed and death. Yet the family remained largely untouched, their empire hidden behind foundations and trusts. In 2019, Purdue Pharma filed for bankruptcy. The Sacklers agreed to pay between $5.5 and $6 billion and surrender ownership of the company. Even then, they retained much of their wealth. In 2020, Purdue pleaded guilty once more, this time to conspiracy to defraud the United States. More fines, more apologies read by lawyers. Still, not one Sackler faced a day behind bars. Then came the most bitter twist, the immunity deal. In exchange for their payment, the Sacklers demanded legal protection from future civil lawsuits. They bought their freedom from justice. Under immense public pressure, museums and universities across the world began removing the Sackler name. A name that once adorned galleries and libraries became a global symbol of corruption, deception, and human tragedy. Purdue Pharma was dissolved, its assets absorbed into a new entity, Pharma, designed to fund opioid crisis abatement. But the damage was done. The reformulated OxyContin of 2010 meant to reduce abuse, instead drove desperate users to heroin, igniting the second wave of the crisis. Then came the third, synthetic opioids like fentanyl, even deadlier and cheaper. Since 1999, nearly 1 million Americans have died from drug overdoses, the majority linked to opioids. Families suffered. Local economies, schools, and communities bore the weight of addiction. And still, the crisis continues. The Sacklers made billions from a painkiller that fueled an epidemic and destroyed lives across generations. Families suffered, communities crumbled, and not one sincere apology has ever been made. React and regret. We react, we never regret, and we never forget. If this story moved you, share it. Talk about it. Because the moment we stop talking, they win.